Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Silly, Kane's big says of leave. Holden is stunned and unable to speak, and when he and Kyle fight, he confesses. When Billy and Sally get to society dressed up for the launch, they find that none of their guests are present. Kane shows up and takes a seat at the bar. He believed they would never show up. Ashby pours drinks while explaining that Abbott Communications has been launched and that the party has been cancelled, hopefully. Billy. Sally is horrified and inquires about Kane's actions. He clarifies that he cancelled both the personnel and the party. It seems almost unbelievable to them that he wants them to sit down and talk. Ashby maintains that this is how he protects them. Although he still views Billy as a brother, he cautions that Victor will soon have the ability to ruin his business. He has the ability to take charge of AC's money. How is that possible, wonders Billy. Kane sold them all out. Then Phyllis shows up and says it's feasible. Phyllis. Is it true? Asks Phyllis as she strolls over to Kane. Kane asks her to express her opinions. She inquires as to whether he possesses AI software capable of breaking into a business's financial system. Nick must have gone to her and warned her. Kane smirks. Phyllis tells them about Ashby's AI program since Sally is curious about what the devil they are discussing. Are Diane and Jack going to argue? Since the launch was abruptly cancelled and they are unable to get in touch with Billy, Jack and Diane are all in a rage at the Abbott home. Diane snarks that Jack ought to have been informed, and the two of them conjecture as to why the news was unexpected. Jack will search for answers elsewhere since they are unable to get in touch with Sally either. Jack finds out that Abby's employees discovered the cancellation on social media. Diane questions whether Billy's behavior caused them to reschedule the occasion. Billy wouldn't do that, Jack claims. Diane partially agrees with the point. She wouldn't rule anything out for Kane or Billy. Jack observes that she has a low opinion of his brother. Given how frequently they have argued, Diane contends that this cannot be entirely unexpected. Diane. Is Kyle going to make things worse? Holden enters Crimson Lights as Kyle is contemplating betraying Claire's confidence. Looking for a method to vent his rage, Kyle confronts him about getting wasted with Claire and tells him to avoid her at all costs. Holden maintains his composure, while Kyle does not. He bemoans the fact that his cousin Abby witnessed Holden and Claire together and cautions Novak against putting him to the test. Holden tells the Abbott that Claire is free to choose. Because of his history with Audra, Kyle accuses him of exploiting her weakness. Holden retorts that she was mistreated by Kyle. He should be glad she has someone to rely on because he was there for her when Cole passed away. Holden even ordered Audra to back off, but he maintains that he is not threatening their relationship. He issues a warning to Kyle, telling him not to approach him again, especially while he is unable to defend himself. Kyle is furious that Holden is going too far as he admits to becoming Claire's confidant. He should back off because he is a player. Just as he says those things, Claire enters the room. Holden, Kyle, Claire. Claire finds out that Kyle believes Holden is a negative influence. What do we really know about the guy? Asks Kyle, shrugging. He lacks his trust. Claire responds, I do. And tells him he has no say in who she hangs out with. She doesn't think their relationship will last if he believes he has that right. Holden promises to manage Audra because he doesn't want any problems. He can manage her, Kyle snips. Claire is furious that Kyle should avoid Audra at all costs. Claire tells Kyle that she has lost her appetite as Holden shuffles out. Has he started a quarrel with Holden? Kyle claims that Abby informed him that she was having a drink with him. Claire questions whether he's implying that she shouldn't believe her own instincts about Holden. According to Kyle, he has no desire to see them happy. Claire, he wants you. Claire. What is Kyle going to tell his parents about this? Jack laments that this launch cancellation sounds like Kane or Victor back at the Abbott residence, but his wife continues to believe it's Billy. Jack contends that this disaster is not what his brother would have wanted. The fact that Kane persuaded Billy to turn against him is simply unbelievable to him. He will have to tell him directly if he wants him out. Kyle enters and inquires about the cancellation of the launch. They believe Kane may have reached Billy, Diane explains. Jack shouldn't assume the worst about his brother just yet. Nothing, Kyle's dejected look. They inquire as to what has transpired. Kyle complains that it is now obvious that he has no idea how to handle relationships. Jack, Diane, Kyle. Kyle explains his mistrust of Holden, Claire's friend. After hearing their altercation, Claire decided to support Holden. She might believe his being domineering. That's delicate for her, Diane is certain. Kyle complains that things are just getting out of hand. They argue briefly about Audra's attempt to separate Kyle and Claire, and Kyle questions whether she was successful. What is Kane going to say next? Kane informs Sally, Billy, and Phyllis at Society that Victor discovered his program and disclosed that he had information regarding Colin. Billy finds it incomprehensible that Kane would now defend his father. It will harm Arabesque, Kane claims. Sally queries how any of this relates to air conditioning. Kane will need their assistance in order to protect them. Phyllis is curious about her place in the group. In a humorous jab at Billy and Sally, Kane remarks, "I can't get rid of her. She has simply adhered herself to me like glue." She protests that she has been a faithful ally of his, but he keeps grinning. Kane is grateful for her help, but he also needs Billy and Sally's support. Billy wants to know how Victor will pursue them. Kane asks Phyllis to describe the capabilities of the AI program. Phyllis. Kane adds that Victor might use the program to take down Abbott Communications and make it appear as though Billy or Jack did it, after Phyllis has informed them of its evil powers. Why would he make something like this? Sally asks. Billy whispers, "Because it's incredible." Kane informs Silly that by calling off tonight's events, he did them a favor. He must rely on the three of them to do the tasks at hand since he has to keep his hands clean. They can defeat Victor on their own if he gives them the AI program. Kane. What is Holden going to tell? Claire approaches Holden at the Overlook and confesses that she followed him in order to express regret for Kyle's actions. Holden shrugs, saying that while he appreciates Claire standing up for his honor, he truly understands why Kyle feels the way he does. Claire is curious about what transpired with Audra in Los Angeles, but Holden tells her that knowing could place her in a difficult situation because what transpired wasn't totally legal. He would want to forget about it. Claire tells him that it wouldn't alter her opinion of him because she has broken the law before. Holden learns from Claire how Jordan taught her to be a manipulator, a liar, and to kill her whole family. Holden is understandably shocked that Claire would do any of those things. She advises him not to let the past haunt him. Holden enjoys everything about her, including the way she thinks. He affirms Kyle's assumptions by saying he can no longer act as though that isn't the case. The tension in Port Charles had reached a boiling point, and nowhere was it more evident than at Society that evening, where a sense of anticipation had been shattered before it even began. Billy and Sally had arrived, dressed to the nines for the grand launch event they had spent weeks planning, only to find the room eerily empty, the usual chatter and clinking of glasses absent, replaced by a hollow quiet that made their arrival feel like a cruel joke. Kane was already there, perched with the calm authority that could unsettle even the most confident of men, taking a seat at the bar as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred, though the entire energy of the space suggested otherwise. His expression held that familiar mix of inscrutability and determination, and he allowed a moment of silence to hang before he spoke. "I thought you'd never show." Billy's brow furrowed, a mixture of confusion and indignation forming as he glanced at Sally, trying to gauge whether she had any insight into this shocking turn of events. Ashby, ever the composed mediator of chaos, poured drinks with deliberate patience while explaining that the launch had been effectively cancelled, and that the party was no more. The news hit Billy and Sally like a sudden storm. It was hard to process that all their planning, their excitement, and their expectations had been nullified by Kane's unilateral decision. Sally's face was a study in horror as she leaned toward Kane, her voice trembling with disbelief. You cancelled the party? Everyone." Kane's response was calm but cutting, almost like a scalpel to her expectations. "Yes. Both the personnel and the celebration itself. I want you all to sit, to talk. That's how I protect you." The explanation seemed almost incomprehensible, a paradoxical mix of care and authoritarianism that left Sally and Billy reeling. Kane's words carried weight. His warning was not just about social decorum but about power, about the way Victor could manipulate and control Abbott Communications' finances, something Billy could barely comprehend. "How is that possible?" he muttered, a mixture of fear and incredulity coloring his tone. Kane's defense, though, was unwavering. He was protecting them, yes, but in a way that required their trust and compliance. And then, almost theatrically, Phyllis arrived, her presence cutting through the tension like a blade. "Is it true?" she asked, striding over with that characteristic mixture of curiosity and calculation. Kane, ever composed, allowed a small smirk to play across his lips, inviting her to speak her mind. The conversation quickly turned to the AI software that had come under Victor's scrutiny, a program capable of infiltrating business systems, including Abbott Communications. Phyllis explained the nuances, the potential dangers, and how Nick might have already briefed her on the situation. While Sally listened, her curiosity piqued despite the chaos surrounding them. The stakes had shifted from a cancelled party to a high-stakes corporate battle where allegiances, intelligence, and trust could dictate the survival of an empire. Meanwhile, at the Abbott residence, Jack and Diane were embroiled in their own storm. The launch's abrupt cancellation had not just disrupted a corporate milestone but had become a personal affront. Diane's temper flared as she scolded Jack for being left in the dark, the air between them charged with frustration and incredulity. Jack, though exasperated, sought rationality amidst the chaos, attempting to piece together whether Billy's actions could have prompted such a disaster or if Kane had been the unseen hand manipulating the situation. Diane's suspicions were laced with cynicism. She refused to discount the possibility of intervention by Kane or Billy, her trust in the former particularly frayed by years of sibling rivalry and corporate skirmishes. Their debate was not merely about logistics or responsibility, it was about loyalty, strategy, and the unspoken rules of family and business. Jack observed the dynamic with a weary patience, recognizing Diane's low opinion of his brother yet frustrated by the sheer unpredictability of the unfolding events. In the midst of this domestic storm, the complexities of personal vendettas, professional duty, and familial allegiance were on full display, setting the stage for further conflict. At Crimson Lights, another drama was unfolding. Kyle, brimming with a mixture of jealousy and righteous indignation, confronted Holden with the intensity of someone determined to protect what he believed was his territory. Kyle's accusations were sharp, fueled by his perception of Holden as a manipulative presence in Claire's life. "Stay away from her," he warned, his voice tight with emotion, though Holden maintained an almost zen-like composure, absorbing the attack without retaliation. Kyle's anger was as much about the perceived betrayal of trust as it was about his own insecurities. He referenced Claire's past, the fragility of relationships, and even the role of Audra in the convoluted dynamics of their social circle. Holden, firm yet measured, responded with an unexpected calm, reminding Kyle of his own past transgressions and asserting that his presence in Claire's life was not an exploitative one. The confrontation escalated, voices rising, accusations flying, until Claire herself entered, cutting through the tension with the authority only she could wield. Kyle's mistrust was laid bare, and Claire's defense of Holden was unwavering, a direct challenge to Kyle's attempt to dictate her friendships and confidences. The clash highlighted not just personal tensions but the complexities of trust, loyalty, and the right to choose one's own alliances in a web of intersecting relationships. As Holden exited, ensuring Audra was kept at bay without provoking further conflict, the emotional fallout lingered, leaving Claire frustrated and Kyle simmering, each moment layered with unresolved tension. Back at the Abbott residence, the fallout from the cancelled launch continued to reverberate. Jack, frustrated and incredulous, tried to assign blame, considering Kane or Victor as the prime suspects, yet Diane's perspective offered a counterpoint, insisting that it could not yet be assumed that Billy was at fault. The discussion shifted to Kyle's involvement, as he entered the room, dejected and frustrated, seeking answers about the launch's cancellation. His words revealed his deepening mistrust of Holden and his own insecurities about relationships, trust, and the role of external influences in Claire's life. Jack and Diane listened carefully, trying to balance their concern for Kyle with their understanding of the larger corporate and personal battles at play. Kyle's narrative intertwined personal jealousy, protective instincts, and the wider consequences of Kane's decisions, painting a picture of a young man caught between familial loyalty, romantic allegiance, and corporate intrigue. Back at Society, Kane's strategy unfolded with meticulous precision. He explained to Sally, Billy, and Phyllis that Victor had discovered his program and leveraged it to gain sensitive information, particularly regarding Colin, and that the AI software was now a tool of both threat and protection. Billy struggled to reconcile Kane's actions with his understanding of loyalty and business ethics, questioning why Kane would now defend Victor's interests. Kane's response was nuanced, emphasizing that his goal was to protect Arabesque while ensuring that Abbott communications remained secure. Sally, ever curious, pressed for clarity, and Kane explained that their collective action, rather than his solitary maneuvering, was essential to thwart Victor's schemes. Phyllis, never one to shy away from involvement, became a key ally, and Kane's humorous acknowledgement of her persistent loyalty lightened the tension while underscoring the seriousness of their mission. The AI program's capabilities were laid bare. Victor could manipulate financial records, frame Billy or Jack for corporate sabotage, and wield unprecedented power over Abbott communications. The threat was immediate, palpable, and required decisive action. Kane's strategy was clear. By canceling the launch, he had bought them time and kept his own hands clean, but the responsibility now rested on their collective shoulders to confront the danger. He made it abundantly clear that their success would hinge on unity, trust, and the precise deployment of the AI program. Meanwhile, Holden's storyline intertwined seamlessly with the ongoing drama. At the Overlook, Claire sought him out, intent on clarifying her stance and expressing regret for Kyle's interference. Holden, composed yet perceptive, reassured her that he understood Kyle's motivations, even as he expressed relief at her intervention. Their conversation revealed layers of Claire's past, including her experiences with Jordan and the lessons she had learned in manipulation, deceit, and survival. Holden's shock at her confessions was tempered by admiration for her resilience and intellect, and Claire's assurances that past transgressions would not alter her opinion of him strengthened their trust. The dialogue explored the delicate interplay between past actions, present choices, and future possibilities, emphasizing that understanding and compassion could coexist with vigilance and caution. Holden's acknowledgement of Kyle's assumptions, his commitment to managing Audra's interference, and his willingness to navigate the complexities of their social network highlighted his strategic acumen and moral compass. The narrative underscored that relationships in Port Charles were rarely simple. They were entangled with history, loyalty, and the constant threat of external manipulation. The interplay of events across society, Crimson Lights, and the Abbott residence revealed a city on edge, where personal vendettas, corporate intrigue, and emotional entanglements collided. Kane's calculated actions at society, juxtaposed with Billy and Sally's confusion, highlighted the tension between authority and autonomy, between protection and interference. Jack and Diane's domestic struggle mirrored the broader corporate battles, emphasizing the human stakes behind business decisions and the fragile trust that underpinned family relationships. Kyle's confrontation with Holden and Claire's defense of her own agency illustrated the perpetual negotiation of trust, autonomy, and loyalty, as well as the consequences of misunderstanding and miscommunication. Each storyline fed into the others, creating a narrative tapestry of suspense, conflict, and emotional complexity that left every character navigating a delicate balance between personal desire and collective responsibility. The AI program, a symbol of both technological prowess and moral ambiguity, became the fulcrum around which alliances shifted, strategies evolved, and loyalties were tested. In the end, the evening's events were more than just cancelled celebrations. They were the catalyst for revelations, confrontations, and decisions that would shape the lives of everyone involved, forcing them to confront their fears, reassess their alliances, and act with both courage and caution in a city where every choice carried weighty consequences. Kane's quiet control, Billy and Sally's stunned reactions, Jack and Diane's domestic friction, Kyle and Holden's confrontation, and Claire's steadfast independence formed a complex narrative web, each thread influencing the others, creating a living, breathing portrait of tension, strategy, and the ever-shifting landscape of trust, power, and emotion in Port Charles. The city, as always, remained a crucible for human drama, where loyalty and betrayal, love and rivalry, ambition and morality collided in ways that left no one untouched, and the evening's cancelled launch became emblematic of the delicate balance between control and chaos, protection and freedom, past transgressions and future possibilities, setting the stage for yet more shocking revelations, emotional reckonings, and high-stakes maneuvers that would continue to unfold in the tangled lives of its residents. The cancellation of the launch party at Society had sent shockwaves through the social and corporate circles of Port Charles, leaving everyone scrambling to make sense of Kane's actions and the emerging threat posed by Victor and his manipulation of the AI program. As Sally and Billy tried to process the surreal reality before them, Kane remained the calm eye of the storm, his demeanor a study in strategic patience, every word and gesture calculated to convey control without appearing overtly threatening. Sally's mind raced, trying to reconcile Kane's decision with what she had known about him. He had always been a protector in his own way, yet this calculated interference suggested a deeper, more complex agenda than mere concern for their safety. "Kane," she began cautiously, I just don't understand. You cancelled everything, all the guests, the staff, everything, and you expect us to just sit here." Her voice carried both disbelief and a trace of hurt, the unspoken message clear. How could he make such sweeping decisions without consulting them? Kane's gaze met hers, steady and unwavering, as he explained that protection often required unorthodox measures, that some threats could not be neutralized by mere social niceties or traditional business tactics. "Sometimes," he said softly but firmly, "you have to act before everyone realizes the danger, before it's too late. This is one of those times."